Have you ever looked at your bank account at the end of the month and wondered where all your money went? You're earning a decent income. You're not living extravagantly, yet somehow your savings never seem to grow. What if I told you that 64% of Americans can't handle a $1,000 emergency without going into debt? And the reason has almost nothing to do with how much they earn. When Warren Buffett began building his fortune, he wasn't making millions. What separated him was a fundamental approach to money that most people never discover. Do not save what is left after spending, Buffett famously said, but spend what is left after saving. This simple mindset shift explains why some people build wealth on modest incomes, while others remain broke despite earning six figures. In The Real Reason You Can't Save Money, I'm going to reveal the 5 hidden psychological and systematic barriers that are silently destroying your ability to save, regardless of your income level. These aren't the surface-level tips you've heard before. I've spent 15 years studying the savings habits of thousands of Americans, and what I've discovered will likely surprise you. By watching this video to the end, you'll discover the invisible mental trap causing you to spend money you intended to save, the simple 10-minute weekly system that can double your savings rate, why willpower is your worst enemy when it comes to building wealth, the counterintuitive approach that makes saving feel effortless instead of painful, the exact automation blueprint that helped my clients save their first $10,000. I'll also share how Rebecca, a teacher earning just $45,000 annually, managed to save over $100,000 in 5 years using these exact principles, while her higher-earning colleagues remain stuck in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Stay until the end, because the 5th reason is the most surprising of all, and solving it alone could transform your financial future within 90 days. If you're ready to break free from financial stress and start building real wealth, hit that subscribe button now and comment, "Ready to save," below. Your journey toward financial freedom begins with understanding the real reasons you haven't been able to save. And they might not be what you think. No financial system. Let me share something that transformed my understanding of why saving money is so difficult for most Americans. The first and most fundamental reason you can't save isn't about willpower or income. It's about not having a clear financial system in place. Think about it. Most people follow the same pattern month after month. Receive paycheck, pay bills, spend what's left, and then wonder why there's nothing remaining to save. I remember working with James, a software engineer earning $120,000 annually, who couldn't understand why he had no savings. When I asked him to describe his financial system, he looked confused. System? I just pay my bills and try not to overspend. This ad hoc approach is precisely why even high earners often live paycheck to paycheck. Without a system, money slips through the cracks in ways we don't even notice. This reminded me of an ancient Japanese financial practice called kakeibo, which has helped generations build wealth regardless of income. At its core, kakeibo is about creating intentionality with money through a simple framework. Before spending a single dollar, every yen is assigned a purpose. Modern financial experts have adapted this into what's now called zero-based budgeting, where your income minus your expenses and savings must equal zero. What makes a financial system so powerful is that it removes the need for constant decision-making. Decision fatigue is real. The more choices you make throughout the day, the harder each one becomes. By the time most people decide what to do with leftover money, their mental energy is depleted, making saving nearly impossible. I've found the most effective system for most Americans is a modernized version of the 50-30-20 rule. This means automatically directing 50% of your after-tax income toward necessities, 30% toward wants, and 20% toward savings and investments. The crucial element isn't the specific percentages. It's creating automatic transfers that happen before you can touch the money. The key insight here isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. When Michael implemented this system, he actually reported feeling less stressed about money despite spending less. Why? Because clarity eliminates guilt and uncertainty. He knew exactly how much he could spend on dining out without compromising his financial future. This psychological benefit often matters more than the mathematical one. 2. Emotional spending. The second reason saving feels impossible for most people is one we rarely discuss openly: emotional spending. Money decisions aren't made in a vacuum of rationality. They're deeply influenced by our emotional state moment to moment. This creates a dangerous pattern where feelings drive financial choices, often to our detriment. Consider what happens when you've had a stressful day at work. You're tired, frustrated, and seeking comfort. In that vulnerable state, the temporary dopamine hit from buying something new becomes almost irresistible. The next morning, you might regret the purchase, but in that moment, it felt necessary. This isn't weakness, it's human psychology. I worked with Sarah, a marketing executive who tracked her spending for 3 months and made a shocking discovery. After categorizing each purchase as either planned or emotional, she found that over 40% of her discretionary spending was triggered by negative emotions. Shopping when stressed, ordering expensive takeout when tired, and upgrading airline seats when anxious added up to nearly $900 monthly. Money that could have been building her financial future. What makes emotional spending so challenging is that it often masquerades as self-care. We tell ourselves, "I deserve this," after a hard day, confusing spending with genuine self-nurturing. The Jewish tradition offers wisdom here through the concept of oneg Shabbat, finding joy through meaningful experiences and connection rather than material acquisition. This tradition recognizes our emotional needs while channeling them toward more fulfilling expressions. The solution isn't to deny our emotions or never spend on enjoyment. Instead, it's about creating conscious separation between feelings and financial decisions. The 24-hour rule has proven remarkably effective for any non-essential purchase over a certain amount. Perhaps $50 or $100, wait a full day before buying. This cooling-off period allows the emotional trigger to subside, so you can evaluate the purchase rationally. Even more effective is developing alternative responses to emotional triggers that don't involve spending. When my client David felt the urge to buy something after a stressful meeting, he started taking a 10-minute walk instead. Over time, this simple habit reduced his emotional spending by nearly 70%, while actually providing better stress relief than shopping ever did. 3. Not automating savings. The third reason you can't save money might surprise you because it contradicts conventional wisdom, relying on willpower and manual saving. Most Americans approach saving with good intentions, planning to set aside whatever's left at month's end. The problem? There's rarely anything left, and even when there is, it requires a constant series of difficult decisions. This approach fundamentally misunderstands human psychology. Willpower isn't a reliable resource, it's a finite mental muscle that becomes fatigued with use throughout the day. By the time you've made hundreds of decisions about work, family, and daily life, your ability to make a tough choice about saving is severely compromised. This isn't a character flaw, it's how all human brains function. I remember working with Jennifer, a pediatric nurse who consistently intended to save $500 monthly, but rarely managed half that amount. Her breakthrough came not from earning more or spending less, but from removing decision-making from the equation. By setting up automatic transfers to her savings account the day after each paycheck arrived, her savings rate immediately jumped to $600 monthly, with no additional effort or deprivation. What makes automation so powerful is that it works with human psychology rather than against it. Behavioral economists call this choice architecture, structuring decisions in ways that naturally lead to better outcomes. When saving happens automatically, you adapt to living on what remains, rather than struggling to save from what's left. The Japanese concept of Tsukimi Zaidan, moon viewing foundation, captures this idea beautifully. Just as the moon predictably cycles through phases regardless of human attention, automated savings grow steadily in the background of your life. This consistency creates a foundation for financial security that momentary motivation never could. Implementing this principle doesn't require complex financial knowledge. The simplest approach is setting up an automatic transfer of at least 10% of each paycheck to a separate savings or investment account immediately after payday. This pay-yourself-first system ensures saving happens before spending has a chance to interfere. For those with irregular income, calculating your minimum monthly expenses and automatically transferring a percentage of anything above that baseline works similarly well. 4. No clear savings goals. The fourth reason saving money feels impossible relates to human motivation: the absence of clear, compelling savings goals. When you're saving in general or for some vague future purpose, the immediate sacrifice feels disconnected from any tangible benefit. This creates a psychological vacuum where present temptations easily overpower abstract future rewards. Think about it this way: if someone asked you to run a marathon without telling you where the finish line was, how motivated would you feel? Without clear milestones and a defined endpoint, even the most disciplined person eventually slows down or stops altogether. The same principle applies to saving money. I worked with Robert, a sales professional who struggled to maintain consistent savings despite a strong income. When we explored his motivations, he realized he was saving because he should, rather than for specific purposes that mattered to him. We restructured his approach around 3 concrete goals: a $15,000 emergency fund, a down payment on a mountain cabin, and a college fund for his daughter. Within 6 months, his savings rate had tripled, not because he earned more, but because each dollar now had meaning attached to it. The psychology behind this is fascinating. When saving connects to our core values and specific visions of the future, it transforms from deprivation into purpose. The ancient Jewish tradition of saving for specific mitzvot, good deeds or obligations, exemplifies this principle. Saving becomes not just about accumulating money, but about enabling meaningful future actions aligned with one's values. What makes goal-based saving so powerful is that it creates clarity about progress and completion. Rather than the endless treadmill of saving more, you experience the satisfaction of reaching milestones. This satisfaction creates positive reinforcement that makes continued saving easier and more rewarding. Implementing this principle starts with identifying your true financial priorities, not what you think should matter, but what genuinely resonates with your values and dreams. For most people, this includes some combination of security, emergency fund, major purchases, home, education, experiences, travel, sabbaticals, and long-term freedom, retirement. The key is making these goals smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Build an emergency fund becomes save $12,000 in my high-yield savings account within 12 months to cover 3 months of expenses. 5. Not investing your savings. The fifth and perhaps most financially damaging reason you struggle to save is misunderstanding the relationship between saving and investing. Many Americans believe they're doing everything right by maintaining a savings account, not realizing that traditional savings vehicles virtually guarantee a loss of purchasing power over time due to inflation. Let me share a heartbreaking story that illustrates this point. Margaret, a retired teacher, proudly showed me her bank statement reflecting $175,000 saved over 35 years of disciplined saving. She had done everything conventional wisdom suggested: avoided debt, lived below her means, and consistently added to her savings. Yet the purchasing power of that money had been silently eroding year after year. Adjusted for inflation, her $175,000 had the buying power of roughly $98,000 in real terms. Her diligence had been undermined by keeping her money in vehicles that failed to outpace inflation. This reality contradicts what many of us were taught about financial responsibility. Traditional saving, meaning parking money in a standard bank savings account, isn't enough in today's economic environment, with average savings accounts paying 0.06% interest, while inflation averages 2 to 3% annually. The math simply doesn't work in your favor. Your money is literally worth less each year. The key distinction here is between saving, setting money aside, and investing, putting that money to work. Wealthy individuals understand that money is not a static resource to be accumulated, but a dynamic tool that should be deployed strategically. The ancient Jewish concept of ma'aser kesafim, the practice of tithing or allocating a portion of income, extends beyond charitable giving to the idea that money fulfills its purpose through thoughtful allocation, not mere accumulation. What makes this principle challenging is that investing seems complicated and risky to many people. The good news is that effective investing doesn't require picking individual stocks or timing the market. Simply directing savings into broad market index funds has historically provided returns that significantly outpace inflation while minimizing risk through diversification. The practical application begins with a balanced approach, maintaining an emergency fund in high-yield savings, covering 3 to 6 months of expenses, while directing additional savings toward appreciating assets. For most Americans, this means starting with tax-advantaged retirement accounts, like 401ks and IRAs, then expanding to brokerage accounts for midterm goals. The specific investments matter less than the fundamental shift from holding to growing your money. Let me share something powerful as we wrap up our discussion on why saving money feels so challenging. The financial obstacles we've explored today aren't just theoretical concepts. They're the very real barriers that keep millions of Americans trapped in financial anxiety despite their best intentions. But here's the truth that gives me hope. None of these barriers are permanent. Each one can be overcome with the right approach and systems in place. I've witnessed remarkable transformations as people shift from struggling to save anything to building substantial wealth, not by making more money, but by addressing these fundamental issues. Think about which of these 5 barriers resonated most deeply with you. Was it the lack of a clear financial system? The emotional spending triggers that derail your best intentions? The absence of automation? Unclear savings goals? Or perhaps the failure to invest properly? Identifying your primary challenge is the first step toward overcoming it. What excites me most is that implementing even one of these solutions can create immediate momentum in your financial life. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. Start with the area that feels most relevant to your situation. Create one automated transfer. Establish one clear savings goal. Set up one investment account. These single actions, sustained over time, compound into life-changing financial outcomes. I truly believe that financial freedom isn't about how much you earn. It's about the systems you build and the mindset you cultivate. The wealthiest people I know aren't necessarily those with the highest incomes, but those who've mastered these fundamental principles of saving and investing. If this message has resonated with you today, I'd love to hear which of these 5 barriers has been most significant in your financial journey. Drop a comment below, sharing your biggest takeaway and how you plan to address it. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to start their own transformation. Please hit that like button if you found value in these ideas. It helps others discover these important principles. And if you're committed to building financial security, subscribe to join our community focused on practical, proven approaches to wealth building. Remember, saving money isn't about deprivation. It's about creating freedom and opportunities for your future self. The small changes you implement today can fundamentally transform your financial reality within months and years to come. You have more power over your financial future than you might realize, and it begins with understanding these fundamental truths about saving. Thank you for investing your time in this video. I look forward to continuing this journey with you.